The crack of his fist against my jaw echoed through the dining room. A sound sharp enough to freeze time. My mother's gasp sliced the air, and the clatter of a dropped fork rang like a gunshot. I stumbled back, the tang of blood blooming on my tongue, my vision swimming as I gripped the edge of the table. Lila's face, pale, wide-eyed, her lips parted in a silent scream, locked onto mine for a fleeting second before she turned to him. Not to me, to him. She grabbed his arm, her fingers trembling, and whispered something I couldn't hear over the ringing in my ears. Then, without a word to me, she followed him out the door, her heels clicking like a countdown to betrayal. The next morning, my phone buzzed relentlessly. 89 missed calls, all from her. The dining room still smelled of rosemary and roasted lamb, the remnants of our family dinner now cold on the plates. My sister, Tara, hovered near me, her hand grazing my shoulder, but I shrugged her off. I didn't want pity. I wanted answers. The bruise on my face throbbed, a dull reminder of Jake's knuckles, but it was Lila's silence as she left that cut deeper. We'd been together 3 years. 3 years of late-night talks, shared dreams, and promises I thought were ironclad. How had it come to this? I replayed the night in my head, searching for the moment it all unraveled. Jake had arrived uninvited, his eyes bloodshot, his voice too loud. He wasn't supposed to be there. Lila had told me they were done, that their fling months ago was a mistake she regretted. Yet there he was, standing in my parents' dining room, his presence a violation. I'd confronted him, my voice steady despite the heat rising in my chest. You need to leave, Jake. His smirk had been a warning I ignored. When I stepped closer, his fist answered. My father had lunged forward, shouting, but Jake was already storming out, Lila trailing behind like a shadow. She didn't look back. Not once. The door slammed, and the silence that followed was suffocating. My mother's voice, trembling, broke it. Evan, your face. I waved her off, my throat tight. I didn't want to talk. I didn't want to feel the weight of their stares, the unspoken questions. Why did she go with him? I barely slept that night. The apartment felt too big, the bed too cold. Lila's side was untouched, her pillow still holding the faint scent of her lavender shampoo. My phone stayed silent until dawn, when the calls started. One after another, her name flashing on the screen. I didn't answer. Each buzz felt like a plea, but also a taunt. What could she possibly say? That it was a mistake? That she didn't mean to choose him? I stared at the growing tally. 47, 62, 89, each number a knot in my chest. By noon, I couldn't stand the quiet anymore. I drove to the coffee shop where Lila worked, the one with the chipped blue mugs and the jazz playlist she loved. The bell above the door jingled as I stepped inside, the air thick with the scent of espresso and burnt sugar. She was behind the counter, her apron smudged with flour, her eyes red-rimmed. When she saw me, she froze, a rag dangling from her hand. Evan, she whispered, her voice cracking. I wanted to scream, to demand why she'd left with him, why she'd let him humiliate me. Instead, I stood there, my hands shoved in my pockets, the bruise on my jaw pulsing. You didn't come home, I said, my voice low, steady, betraying none of the storm inside me. I couldn't, she stammered. He was drunk, Evan. I had to make sure he didn't do anything stupid. Like hit me again? The words came out sharper than I meant, and she flinched. A customer at a nearby table glanced up, then quickly looked away. Can we talk outside? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I nodded, though every instinct screamed to walk away. We stepped into the alley behind the shop, the air damp and heavy with the smell of rain-soaked asphalt. She leaned against the brick wall, her arms crossed, her eyes darting everywhere but at me. I didn't know he was coming, she started, her words rushed. He just showed up, and I didn't want a scene. I thought if I went with him, I could calm him down. You left with him, I said, each word a stone. In front of my family. After he hit me. I know, she said, her voice breaking. I know how it looked. But it wasn't what you think. Then what was it? I stepped closer, my voice rising despite myself. Because it looked like you chose him. Again. Her eyes met mine then, glistening with tears. I didn't choose him, Evan. I was trying to protect you. I laughed, a bitter sound that echoed off the alley walls. Protect me? By running off with the guy who punched me? You didn't even check if I was okay. I called you, she said, her voice small. I called you all night. And I'm supposed to feel better because of that? 89 calls Lila. What were you going to say? That you're sorry? That you still love me? I hated how desperate I sounded. How much I still wanted her to say it. I do love you, she said, stepping forward, her hand reaching for mine. I pulled back, and her face crumpled. Evan, please. Jakes, he's not stable. He's been calling me, showing up at work. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to worry. I stared at her, the words sinking in like poison. He's been calling you? For how long? She hesitated, her gaze dropping to the ground. A few weeks. The air felt thinner, my chest tighter. Weeks. She'd been hiding this, carrying it like a secret she couldn't trust me with. Why didn't you tell me? I asked, my voice barely audible. Because I knew you'd confront him, she said, tears spilling now. And I was scared of what he'd do. To you. To us. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to wrap her in my arms and tell her we'd figure it out. But the image of her following him out the door, her hand on his arm, burned in my mind. You should have told me, I said. Instead, you let him make a fool of me. Of us. I'm sorry, she whispered, her voice raw. I thought I could handle it. I turned away, my hands clenched, the alley blurring as my eyes stung. I wanted to hate her, to walk away and never look back. But I couldn't. Not yet. What now, Lila? I asked, my back to her. What happens when he shows up again? She was quiet for too long. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a breath. I don't know. That night, I sat on the couch, my phone dark and silent. The apartment felt like a museum of our life together. Her scarf draped over the chair, the photo of us at the beach pinned to the fridge. I kept replaying her words, her tears, the way she'd looked at me like I was the one breaking her heart. But there was something else, something she wasn't saying. The way her eyes darted away when I asked about Jake, the tremble in her voice when she said she didn't know. I opened my phone, scrolling through the call log. 89 missed calls, yes, but also texts I hadn't noticed. One from Jake, sent at 3 a.m. Tell him or I will. My blood ran cold. Tell me what? I scrolled further, my heart pounding, and found a message from Lila to him. Timestamp 2 days ago. Stop. I can't do this anymore. The room spun. I dropped the phone, my hands shaking. She hadn't just been hiding his calls. There was more, something deeper, something she was still keeping from me. I stood, my legs unsteady, and grabbed my keys. I didn't know where I was going, her work, his place, anywhere, but I couldn't stay here, suffocating in the ruins of our trust. As I reached the door, my phone buzzed again. Another text from Jake. She's with me now. Don't wait up. The words hit like a second punch, knocking the air from my lungs. I stared at the screen, my vision blurring, and in that moment I knew. The betrayal wasn't just last night. It was alive, ongoing, a wound that hadn't stopped bleeding.